Karen was fuming. How dare the barista refuse to serve her after she had so kindly asked to speak to the manager? All she wanted was a simple, customized frappuccino, but this incompetent employee dared to deny her request. Gripping her phone tightly, Karen stormed up to the counter, her beady eyes narrowed in a withering glare. "I demand to speak to your manager immediately," she screeched, her voice carrying across the crowded cafe. The barista, a young woman named Sarah, tried to remain calm. "Ma'am, I've already explained that we don't have the resources to accommodate that kind of customization. If you'd like a standard frappuccino, I'd be happy to." "Do you have any idea who I am?" Karen interrupted, her face flushing with indignation. "I'm a respected member of this community, and I will not be treated this way. Now get me your manager, or I swear I'll make sure you're all fired." Sarah sighed, already exhausted by Karen's entitled behavior. "Ma'am, the manager is not available right now. I'm afraid I can't help you any further." She turned to assist the next customer, hoping Karen would simply leave. But Karen had no intention of backing down. Whipping out her phone, she pressed the record button and shoved it in Sarah's face. "Oh, I'm going to make sure everyone knows how horribly you've treated me," she spat, her eyes glinting with malicious triumph. Caught off guard, Sarah instinctively raised her hand to block the camera. "Ma'am, please stop recording me. That's not okay." Karen cackled, unperturbed by Sarah's protests. "Too late, sweetheart. This is going straight to my Facebook page, and you can bet your bottom dollar that your little cafe is going to be in big trouble." Turning on her heel, Karen stormed out of the cafe, her self-righteous laughter echoing behind her. Sarah could only watch in disbelief, her heart sinking as she realized the full weight of Karen's threat. Little did Karen know, however, that her entitled actions were about to have consequences far more severe than she could have imagined. Karen was giddy with excitement as she uploaded the video to her Facebook page, carefully crafting a scathing caption that painted her as the wronged party. "Outrageous treatment at cafe name. This incompetent barista refused to serve me and had the audacity to deny my simple request. I demand accountability." Within minutes, the post had garnered hundreds of shares and comments, with Karen's friends and followers rallying to her defense. "Unbelievable. You should sue them for this," one comment read. "Those lazy millennials have no respect for hard-working customers like you," another chimed in. Basking in the outpouring of support, Karen felt a sense of vindication. She had shown that petty employee who was in charge, and now the entire world would know about the injustice she had faced. However, Karen's triumph was short-lived. As the video continued to spread like wildfire across social media, a different narrative began to emerge. Viewers who weren't part of Karen's echo chamber started to dissect the footage, and what they saw was not the sympathetic portrayal Karen had hoped for. Instead, they witnessed a woman berating a clearly distressed employee, refusing to accept a reasonable explanation, and aggressively invading the young woman's personal space. The tide quickly turned, and the comments section morphed into a torrent of scathing criticism aimed squarely at Karen. What an entitled Karen. The barista was so patient and professional, and you just bullied her. You're a disgrace to your community. The only one who should be fired is you. This is why nobody likes Karens like you. Grow up and learn some basic manners. Karen's face burned with humiliation as she watched the comments poured in. Her plan to shame the barista had backfired spectacularly, and now she was the one being vilified. Panic gripped her as she realized the extent of the damage she had done to her own reputation. But the worst was yet to come. Karen spent the next few days in a state of heightened anxiety, glued to her phone as the backlash against her continued to escalate. The viral video had sparked a tidal wave of outrage, with commenters from all over the country excoriating her entitled behavior and demanding consequences. Her phone buzzed constantly with notifications, each one filled with scathing criticism and calls for action. Strangers were bombarding her social media accounts, flooding her inbox with messages that ranged from stern lectures to outright threats. The once adoring comments from her friends had given way to a chorus of condemnation, as even her closest allies started to distance themselves. Karen's carefully curated image as a respected, upstanding member of the community was crumbling before her eyes. Panic-stricken, Karen tried to delete the video and issue a meek apology, but the damage was already done. Screenshots and mirror posts had ensured that the footage lived on, and the internet had no intention of letting her off the hook so easily. As the public outcry reached a fever pitch, local news outlets caught wind of the story and decided to investigate. Interviews with the cafe staff and other witnesses painted an even more damning picture of Karen's behavior, highlighting her history of similar confrontations and her unwillingness to take responsibility for her actions. The story quickly became a national sensation, with major news networks and social media influencers weighing in on the debacle. Karen's name became synonymous with the toxic Karen archetype, a symbol of entitlement, privilege, and the erosion of basic decency. Her once thriving business began to suffer as customers boycotted her services, and her community involvement was met with scorn and derision. Karen found herself ostracized, her reputation in tatters, and her once comfortable life upended by the consequences of her own entitled actions. The once powerful Karen was now a pariah, a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked privilege and the power of social media to hold people accountable. As the fallout from the viral video continued to ravage her life, Karen was consumed by a desperate need to salvage her ruined reputation. She tried everything, issuing apologies, deleting her social media accounts, and even reaching out to the cafe staff in a futile attempt at making amends. But the internet never forgets, and the damage had already been done. No matter how hard she tried, Karen couldn't shake the Karen label that had become synonymous with her name. The more she begged for forgiveness, the more the public seemed to revel in her downfall. Forced to confront the harsh reality of her actions, Karen began to spiral. She lashed out at her family and friends, blaming them for not doing enough to defend her. Her once meticulously curated life unraveled as she became a recluse, avoiding public spaces and living in constant fear of further humiliation. In a desperate attempt to regain control, Karen turned to the legal system, filing a series of lawsuits against the cafe, the news outlets that covered the story, and even individuals who had left scathing comments online. But these efforts were met with overwhelming ridicule, further cementing her reputation as an entitled, litigious individual. As the lawsuits dragged on, Karen's financial resources dwindled, and she found herself facing the very real possibility of bankruptcy. The once wealthy and influential woman was now struggling to make ends meet, her once comfortable lifestyle reduced to a distant memory. Broken and defeated, Karen began to question everything she had once believed. The world she had once dominated now seemed to reject her at every turn, and she found herself grappling with a newfound sense of empathy and understanding for the very people she had once looked down upon. But for Karen, the road to redemption would be long and arduous, and the consequences of her actions would continue to haunt her for years to come. As the fallout from the viral video continued to consume Karen's life, she found herself facing a reckoning unlike any she had ever experienced. The once powerful woman who had always gotten her way was now forced to confront the harsh realities of her own entitled behavior. Stripped of her influence and social status, Karen was forced to grapple with the realization that the world no longer viewed her as the untouchable, respected figure she had once believed herself to be. Instead, she was now seen as a symbol of everything that was wrong with the privileged elite, a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked entitlement and the power of social media to hold people accountable. As the legal battles dragged on, Karen's financial resources continued to dwindle, and she found herself facing the very real possibility of losing everything she had worked so hard to build. The once thriving business that had been her pride and joy was now on the brink of collapse, as customers continued to boycott her services in light of the scandal. Desperate to regain some semblance of control, Karen tried to reinvent herself, attempting to rebrand her image and distance herself from the Karen label that had become her albatross. But the more she tried to manipulate the narrative, the more the public saw through her efforts, further eroding any remaining shreds of trust and goodwill. Overcome by a profound sense of shame and isolation, Karen began to withdraw from the world, retreating into a self-imposed exile as she grappled with the realization that the life she had once taken for granted was now irreparably broken. In the depths of her despair, Karen was forced to confront the harsh truth that her entitled behavior had not only damaged her own reputation, but had also inflicted pain and suffering on those around her. The young barista, whose life she had sought to ruin, was now living in fear, her future uncertain, all because of Karen's callous actions. As the weight of her transgressions bore down on her, Karen found herself facing a reckoning that would challenge the very foundations of her identity and force her to reevaluate everything she had once believed about herself and the world around her. Broken and humbled, Karen began the long and arduous journey of rebuilding her life from the ashes of her former glory. Gone were the days of entitlement and privilege. In their place, a newfound sense of humility and a desperate desire to atone for the harm she had caused. With her financial resources dwindling and her once thriving business on the verge of collapse, Karen was forced to confront the harsh realities of the world she had once so casually dismissed. She found herself turning to local charities and community organizations, seeking out ways to make amends and give back to the very people she had once so callously disregarded. It was a slow and painful process, as Karen grappled with the deep-seated biases and prejudices that had long defined her worldview. She was forced to listen, to learn, and to truly understand the experiences of those she had once looked down upon. A humbling and transformative experience that would ultimately shape the course of her redemption. As she immersed herself in these newfound endeavors, Karen began to see the world through a different lens. The once blinding veil of entitlement had been lifted, and she found herself confronting the harsh realities of social and economic inequalities that had long been invisible to her. Slowly but surely, Karen's perspective began to shift. She found herself developing a newfound empathy and understanding for the struggles of others, and a genuine desire to use her resources and influence to make a positive difference in the world. It was a painful and often humiliating process, as Karen was forced to confront the consequences of her own actions and the damage she had inflicted upon those around her. But through it all, she remained steadfast in her determination to make amends, to rebuild the trust she had so carelessly shattered, and to become a force for good in the world. As the months and years passed, Karen's slow and steady transformation began to bear fruit. She became a champion for social justice, using her voice and her resources to advocate for marginalized communities and to challenge the very systems of privilege and entitlement that had once defined her world. And while the scars of her past actions would never fully heal, Karen found solace in the knowledge that she was, at long last, on the path to true redemption, a journey that would ultimately define the rest of her life. As Karen's slow journey of redemption continued, a surprising opportunity presented itself. A chance to directly confront the consequences of her past actions and, perhaps, find a path towards true reconciliation. It was during one of her regular volunteer shifts at a local community center that Karen encountered the young barista she had so callously mistreated all those years ago. The moment their eyes met, the air was thick with tension, and Karen felt a wave of shame and remorse wash over her. Sarah, the barista, looked hesitant and apprehensive, clearly still haunted by the trauma of that fateful day. But as Karen approached her, a glimmer of curiosity and even a hint of compassion flickered in her eyes. Mustering every ounce of courage, Karen spoke, her voice trembling with emotion. "Sarah, I don't even know where to begin. The way I treated you that day was unforgivable, and I've lived with the weight of that for years. I know I can never undo the harm I've caused, but I want you to know that I'm truly, deeply sorry." Sarah remained silent, her expression unreadable, and Karen pressed on, determined to make amends. I know I can't change the past, but I want you to know that I've spent the last several years trying to become a better person, to use my privilege and my resources to make a positive difference in the world. And I was hoping that perhaps, one day, you might be able to forgive me." The tension in the air was palpable, and for a moment, Karen feared that her efforts would be met with rejection. But then, to her surprise, Sarah's features softened, and she let out a deep sigh. "Karen, I'm not going to lie. What you did that day was truly awful, and it's taken me a long time to heal from the trauma of it all. But I can see that you've changed, and I admire the work you've been doing in the community. If you're sincere in your desire to make amends, then I'm willing to hear you out." Karen felt a surge of relief and gratitude, her eyes brimming with tears. "Thank you, Sarah. I promise you, I will spend the rest of my life trying to make up for the harm I've caused. I'm so sorry, and I hope that one day you can find it in your heart to truly forgive me." As the two women embraced, a glimmer of hope began to shine through the darkness, a testament to the power of redemption and the possibility of true reconciliation. In the aftermath of her heartfelt reconciliation with Sarah, Karen found a renewed sense of purpose and determination in her quest for redemption. The emotional weight that had been weighing her down for years had finally begun to lift, and she felt a newfound clarity about the path forward. With Sarah's forgiveness as a testament to the power of empathy and understanding, Karen doubled down on her efforts to make a positive impact on her community. She poured her time, resources, and energy into supporting local charities, volunteering at soup kitchens, and advocating for marginalized communities. Gone were the days of entitlement and privilege. In their place, a genuine humility and a deep appreciation for the struggles of those less fortunate. Karen listened, learned, and sought to understand the lived experiences of those she had once so callously dismissed, using her platform to amplify their voices and champion their causes. As word of her transformation spread, Karen found herself embraced by the very community she had once alienated. People who had once vilified her now saw her as a beacon of hope, a symbol of the transformative power of self-reflection and the willingness to make amends. Sarah, too, had become an integral part of Karen's journey, offering her guidance, support, and a unique perspective that had, in many ways, become Karen's moral compass. The two women forged an unlikely bond, one built on mutual understanding, respect, and a shared commitment to creating a more just and equitable world. Together, they worked tirelessly to enact meaningful change, using their combined resources and influence to tackle systemic issues and challenge the very structures of privilege that had once defined their world. And as the years passed, Karen's story became a testament to the power of redemption, a reminder that even the most entrenched biases and prejudices can be overcome through genuine self-reflection, empathy, and a commitment to making the world a better place. In the end, Karen's journey was not one of a simple fall from grace, but a profound transformation, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the possibility of true, lasting change.